What is vocation? You to earn money for living. Good job. Basic 3 angels. Types of clothes for special purpose. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. Number 7. Number 7. Inner waist. I just come once again to today's class. Alright now. So who can remind us what we discussed last time in previous class online like this? Do you remember what we discussed in the previous class? Try to think about it. Okay, let me help your mind. We discussed about food processing. We discussed about what? Food processing. Now, at the long run, we were able to establish the fact that some food items can be processed into another form that has another taste, another quality, and another features. Now, today we have another topic before us, which is baking. What's the topic again? Baking. That's what we want to discuss today in previous class, and I want you to pay attention to every details of today's class, because at the end I'm going to evaluate you. I'm going to evaluate your attention, your attentiveness to details of the class. I'm going to evaluate how you're following, because if you're not following, I'm going to know from my evaluation questions. I'm not going to ask you verbatim questions. I will ask you questions that I strongly believe that you were following through the class indeed. Is that clear to you now? So pay attention as we go with the class. So you're going to be exposed to the knowledge of the concept of baking today, the differences between pastries and dough. Is that clear to you now? Differences between pastries and dough. You're going to be learning also some of the equipment and facilities used in baking processes. Then we're going to have a practical section. Are you glad hearing that? Yeah, practical section online. Of course, we're going to have a practical section. So you're going to learn how to bake pound cake and pancake. Pound cake, pancake. What do you mean, manager? Stay till the end of the class. You get to know that. So now, what is baking? What is baking? What comes to your mind when you hear the word baking? Baking is a cooking method that involves the application of dry heat. Application of what? Dry heat. Can you see this now? Application of dry heat, usually in an oven, to raw food items. Is that clear to you now? So in a simple sentence, you can just tell us baking is a cooking method that involves application of dry heat. What do you mean by dry heat? You know, I told you last time that we have some types of cooking methods. We have the wet heat cooking method and dry heat cooking method. Good. So now, when you apply dry heat cooking method through oven to raw food items, you're practicing nothing but baking. Is that clear to you now? Great. So let's show you some diagrams that illustrate what we have explained. Now we said baking is cooking method that involve the application of dry heat to raw food items. So the raw food items that we bake is called dough. Is that clear to you now? This dough here, you see that? So when you mixed baking ingredients together in a raw form, they are referred to as dough. You're going to be coming across some of the baking ingredients also on this platform in this class today. So dough simply means what? Mixture of baking ingredients in its raw form. Is that clear to you now? Very good. Now, what happens next? When you have this dough well prepared, you apply the heat through this equipment referred to as oven. Exactly, Tina. Oven. This is what helps us to produce the pastries from the dough. What do we mean by pastries now? This word coming. Pastries. Pastries. Can you see that now? Pastries or pastries. Sorry, pastries. Now, what do you mean by pastries? Pastries are baked dough. What do I call it? Baked dough. Dough. So this dough you can see here, we'll bake them. We'll allow it to pass through the oven. When we have applied the heat, we're going to have pastries. Exactly as you know. So these pastries are what we consume. We don't consume dough. No, you can't be taking raw flour. It's not ideal. Exactly as you know. So pastries are what? Baked dough. White dough is mixture of what? Of baking ingredients. Exactly as you know. So dough is what? Mixture of baking ingredients such as sugar, flour, butter, egg, milk, etc. So those are dough. You don't consume dough. You bake it into pastries. So pastries such as fish pie, such as shawarma, yeah, I mean it, such as cakes, etc. Exactly as you know. Great job. So now, now I want you to also understand something. Where we practice baking, you can bake either in your home or you bake on commercial scale. What do you mean by that? You can bake just like a little cake in your house or for personal consumption, or there are some people that practice it on an industrial scale. They practice it in the industry, like in the bakery where bread and some other snacks are being produced. Exactly. So the place where baking is being practiced is refers to as bakery. It refers to as what? Bakery. Can you see this now? This is bakery. That's where baking process is being performed, and they sell the pastries out in form of snacks, the bread, the cakes, etc. An example in Niger State here is a Hot Street Bakery. I'm sure you know that. Great. So that's where baking takes place. And I also want you to understand the fact that the people that practice baking as a vocation are known as bakers. Exactly what you know. So you see, these are objective questions that I can come up with during your examination. That the vocational practitioners of baking are referred to as bakers, oven, dough, pastries. Don't get confused. Bakers are known as the practitioners of baking, the people that practice baking as a profession in large scale. Are you getting it now? In the industry, in the bakery itself, they are known as bakers. So here we have them. Can you see all of them here? These are bakers in the bakery now, practicing vocation. You see, I've explained this. I said the industrial place where baking is being practiced is called bakery. Great job. So now let's move to the next slide. Before we move to the next slide, good. Now there's a difference between confectionery and baking. You see, baking is about preparing pastries. Exactly what you know. Preparing pastries such as fish pie, dough, that are just conversion of dough into pastries, while confectionaries are the people that practice production of sugary things such as sweets, chocolates, and the likes, that you children, you guys, you just love them so much, like chocolates, strawberries and all these sweet things. So confectionery is all about production of sweet items, while baking is production of pastries. Are you getting it now? You don't need to get confused with this. Pastries are baked dough like fish pie, meat pie, cakes, biscuits, bread, etc. While confectionery products are such as chocolates, some sweets and the likes, sugary things anyway. Not that pastries are also not sugary, no, that's not what we're talking about, but the ones that centralize on production of sugary items alone is refers to as confectionery. Exactly, great. So that's the difference between confectionery and baking. They are not the same. They look alike, but they're not exactly the same thing. All right, so let's move on. Now, what are some of the items or some of the things we can bake? The first one here, we have the pie, the fish pie, the meat pie, the shawarma itself. Shawarma. Great. I'm not going to show it on screen here. All right. Also have the cakes. We have cakes. And now I want to show you something. Who can tell me the name of this? I know you will tell me that this is bread, but this is not bread. This is called pound cake. Pound cake, not pancake. It's different from the pancake. By the end of this class, you're going to know more about that. So let's move on. So this is pound cake. It's different from the normal cake. How? All the constituents that were used in production of pound cake, they are usually in equal pounds, in the same amount. That's 1 pound each. Exactly, if you're using 2 pounds of the egg, you use the 2 pounds of butter, 2 pounds of eggs, and all the necessary recipe will be at the same quantity. Exactly, that's how to produce pound cake. Now, I'm sure you know this. This is bread. These are some of the pastries. Exactly, the pastries. Another one, we have gala, rolls, fish roll, meat roll, shawarma, etc. Name them, etc. All these are referred to as pastries. Exactly, all these are referred to as pastries. Pastries. Now, if I ask in an examination that mention 3 example pastries, you can come up with pies, fish pie, meat pie. You can come up with cakes. You can come up with bread. You can come up with rolls, fish rolls, meat rolls, etc. Exactly, And again, you can also come up with biscuits. Yeah, biscuit is being baked. Exactly, great job, etc. So there are many. So now I can ask a question like, give me 3 examples or 2 examples of confectionery products. Number 1, chocolates. Number 2, you can mention ice creams. Yeah, ice creams. Exactly, So there are 2 different things. Please don't mix it up. Great. Now let's move into the next slide. Some common baking ingredients. We discussed this in class, but just pay more attention here so that you can learn more today. One of it is the flour. Can you see the flour here? Majorly, there are different types of flour, but the main one that we prefer using is all-purpose flour. The second one is fat or butter. Can you see them? That's the butter now. The third one, the yeast. What do we use yeast for? Yeast is also known as a leavening agent. What do I call it? Leavening agent. Look at it. Leavening agent. What do you mean by leavening agent? These are substances that allow something to swell up. That allow dough to swell up. To allow it to increase in size. So when you're baking, you just see popping up like bread. Any dough you are preparing and you added this to If you allow it to ferment, what do you mean by ferment? If you allow it to rest for some time, you see that it will increase in size, it swell up. So the living agent is what? The yeast. Exactly. So let's clean up this. Now, we talk about the eggs, we talk about the salt and sugar, we talk about the liquids that you use in mixing up the dough. You can either use milk or you can either use water, or it depends on what you are preparing. Exactly. You can also have a flavor, the vanilla flavor, nutmeg, etc. You also have colorants and the likes. So many of them like that. These are just some, not all, some. So another thing I want us to understand is some equipment and facilities used in baking. Now let me zoom up this so that you can see some of these things properly. Great job here. Now you can see something, right? You can see the rolling pin here. Is the rolling pin. You can see the whisking device. Some call it whisker. I don't know why they call it whisker. We will learn more today why it's not called whisker. You can see the measuring spoons. You can see the cans, the cake. You can see the bakewares. Can you see them now? And you can see this device. This one particularly is used for designing cake. It's used for decorating icing sugar on a cake. Exactly to you. Great. And you see the spoons for measuring sugar, flavor, etc. Great. So all these I called them, the first one rolling pins, utensils. You know utensils that we have in the kitchen, and also baking wares. What do you mean by baking wares? These are the cans that you put cake inside and bake it. Exactly. These are called cake pan. So those are known as baking wares. So another equipment and facility that we have. Now when we talk about equipment are something you can move easily whenever you are practicing something. Equipment you can move very easily. Take for instance, if you're asked that what are the equipment for school, you can talk about your bag, your lunch box. You can talk about your biro, your pen, your ruler, your books. You can move them very easily, isn't it? When we talk about facilities, school facilities, these are something that you cannot move. They remain there. They are built in there. They are permanent where they are. So example of those are something like school classrooms. Exactly. So now when we talk about equipment, all these things are equipment. Even this one as well, this is whisking machine. It's also an equipment because you can carry it, you can change its position like from somewhere to another place easily. Unlike oven, you can't put oven on your head and now and say, okay, I want to go and cook in my friend's house. Why? Do you understand the difference between equipment and facilities now? Equipment are something you can move easily, you can handle them, they are handleable. Like you can just put them in your hands and just move it, go anywhere with them. Why facilities, this guy here, like oven now, they are just kept constant. Like your cooking gas now in your kitchen, those are facilities for cooking. You can't say they are equipment. No. You can't carry them up and down and say, okay, fine, I want to go and cook in my friend's house, so I just have to like take some carry our cooking gas on our head. So you're going. That's very incorrect, isn't it? Great job. Now, excuse me. We've talked about the baking equipment and facilities, and we've talked about baking ingredients. Exactly to you now. So if I ask you in an examination that mention some of the baking ingredients, you can see them here. Flour, from the flour, butter, egg, yeast, liquids such as water, milk, flavor, salt, or sugar. Is that clear? Why baking equipment and facilities? We have rolling pins, utensils, bakewares, whisking machine, oven. You know what whisking machine does? It helps us to turn or mix the dough. Exactly to you, instead of using hands, and it's more faster and more effective. So now let's go to the practical section of today's class. These aspects we want to learn from a very good friend of mine, Preppy. You're welcome, Preppy. Preppy is going to show us how pound cake. Pound. Can you see the word here? Pound what? Pound cake. You see pound? Excuse me. No, pound what? Pound cake. Pound. Not pan or pan. Is different. There are two different things. Exactly, so you know. So let's learn how this type of cake is being made. After that, then we'll learn how pancake is being made. The first is pound. This is pound. Pound cake. The second one, pan cake. Pan.
Hey everyone, you're watching Preppy Kitchen, where I, John Cannell, teach you how to make delicious homemade dishes to share with your family and friends. Today we're making an easy, delicious, and just plain amazing vanilla pound cake. Pound for pound, it's the best you've ever had. Let's get started. First off, I'm adding 1.5 cups or 180 grams of all-purpose flour into a large bowl with a sifter over it. 180 exactly. 1 teaspoon of salt for balance, it makes a big difference, and half a teaspoon of baking powder for leavening. Traditionally, a pound cake was actually a pound of butter, a pound of eggs, and a pound of flour. I made that recipe and it was not the best cake I've ever had in my life. So I spent some time tweaking it, and this is a really nice, moist, delicious version that you can gussy up with different flavors if you like. Okay. Sift this into your bowl, whisk it up, and we're gonna set it aside. Now it's time for the butter. Into the bowl of my stand mixer, fitted with a paddle attachment, I'm adding 1 cup or 226 grams of unsalted butter. And it is there's still work getting done in the house today. We are not finished yet. It is a very cold day here. So I actually had to microwave this butter just a little bit at half power, like 10 seconds, to warm it up to room temperature. Room temperature means that you can put your finger on the butter and leave an indent when you press in lightly.
4 eggs.
It's not going to melt away. It's not going to be too firm. That's what room temperature means. Let's cream it up just for a second. There we go. All right, once that's started, 1 cup or 200 grams of sugar. There you go. After your butter is kind of nice and fluffy, just scrape the bowl down really quick. While the mixer is running on medium-low, we're gonna add the eggs in one at a time. Let the eggs incorporate. Don't dump them in all at once. It's just messier that way. Okay, so now scrape that bowl down again. I have an egg soup in the middle and hard butter on the outside. I'm gonna let that run for a minute just so things get nice and homogeneous. That looks pretty good. If you see tiny clumps of butter, it's okay. It'll all work out in the bake. So you know I love some sour cream in cakes. It gives you a lot of moisture, a little bit of tang, and this is delicious. If you can't find it where you live, plain yogurt works amazingly well too. You could also sub in buttermilk instead. All right, 1/2 of a cup, which is 120 ml. Although, I don't know, sour cream, is that a grams situation or milliliters? You can let me know in the comments. I'm never sure which one it is. In you go, let's mix it up. This recipe has 2 tablespoons or about 30 milliliters of vanilla, and I happened to get a really nice gift box from Nielsen Massey with all the different vanillas from the world. This one's Mexican vanilla, which I'm using because of my heritage. Yeah. They all taste a little bit different, so it's really neat to kind of just sample the slight differences in those orchids. My mom was horrified that I didn't use any zest in this recipe. She would always have an orange or lemon zest, and you can do that too. I'm keeping it kind of like a standard pound cake that you can alter however you'd like. If you're going for the zest, just add in about a tablespoon or 2. It'll be amazing and very fragrant. Okay, let's mix that up one last time. Oh, this is so nice. All right, I'm just gonna dump the flour in and then mix it up on low until it's almost just combined, and then you'll just finish it off by hand. You also want to scrape the bowl down anyways, so you might as well scrape and do a little bit of hand mixing. It gives you a nice control of the batter, And you're gonna be sure not to like overactivate
Yeah,
any of that gluten and get like a bready cake. No one wants a bready cake.
like this crap.
All right, scraping the bowl down. There's a lot of flour on the sides and some butter on the bottom, so just give it a final mix. And I am seeing like these little granules of butter. It's just because it's cold here right now. Don't worry about it. Just like in my vanilla cake, if you see those little butter pieces, it'll melt and be delicious in the oven, not a problem. Just to show you what I mean with the butter, look, this is room temperature, but it is hard. Too hard for baking. It is good though for rubbing onto your pan. You need to butter and flour this pan so everything releases nicely. And if you want, you could just use parchment paper. That works amazingly well too, and it lifts out even easier. But I will be buttering and flouring today. Taking it old school. This is a 1.5 pound loaf pan, but you know, any loaf pan will do basically. All right, and then if there's any globs, just use your clean fingers to spread it to the edge. Kick around about a tablespoon of flour, get it all the way up to the sides.
Thank you.
And a classic pound cake will have like that nice crack in the center. It'll be a little bit caramelized on the edges. It's not like a layer cake where, you know, I'm kind of a crazy person and want it to be like perfectly light colored, very soft on the sides. You want like kind of a bit of a almost crunch for the very edge. Gives you a nice play of textures. Meanwhile, all the people that like that on their regular layer cakes are like, that's what I'm talking about.
This particular cake is made with
put the excess back, and we're ready to pour. Just pour that cake batter right in there.
Normal one, I'm sure most of you are very familiar with.
This goes into the oven, center rack,
let's learn
350 Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes. You'll see kind of golden brown at the edge, cracked on top with, you know, a skewer coming out clean in the center. It'll be amazing. Let's put it in there. There's something just so satisfying about a plain loaf cake. I don't know what it is, but it's just like that little something extra, like piece of toast. No. I'll have some pound cake. I'm fine, thanks. Starting the morning off right. If you like this recipe, check out my cake playlist. All of my favorite cakes, so many different recipes, and you will find one at least to fall in love with. Okay, time for a bite. It just has the perfect crumb, and it's kind of like really substantial, perfectly sweet, and just like kind of crisp on the outside, on the caramelized edges, super soft on the inside. All right, if you like this recipe, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.
Vanilla extract. Okay.
This morning I woke up and thought, I'm gonna treat my kids and myself to some delicious pancakes. You might hear some toddlers warbling in the background, but the results will be delicious. Hey, you're watching Preppy Kitchen, where I, John Cannell, teach you how to make delicious homemade dishes to share with your family and friends. Today we're making the fluffiest, most delicious buttermilk pancakes you've ever had in your life. These are super easy, whip up in just a couple of minutes, and there is no reason not to treat yourself in the morning. Let's get started. First off, we're adding 1 1/3 cups or 160 grams of all-purpose flour into a large bowl. The sifter, hovering around. We're adding 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and a tablespoon of baking powder. Sift it out. It's like we're making a little baby cake in a pan. Whisk it up. Scale is done. This can get set aside. And now for the wet ingredients. I have 1 cup of buttermilk in my measuring cup, and if you don't have buttermilk on hand, click up here for the blog post because I have all the tips and tricks on substitutions. We're adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and here's the deal. These will be amazing with room temperature ingredients, but chances are you're just waking up in the morning, things are cold, so we can pop this into the microwave for about 45 seconds to warm up, and then we can mix in our egg, etc. So let's warm you up. Kids are up, which means I have to get rolling. Okay, 1 egg into my buttermilk, which is nice and warm now. I warm my milk for almost every recipe I make. It makes a huge difference. Whisk it up. Now, after that egg's incorporated, 4 tablespoons of melted butter. When you microwave that butter, make sure you're using like 50% power in short bursts. You don't want a butter explosion on your hands first thing in the morning. There is some water in that butter and it'll steam up and go poof. Not a good scene. Stir it in. Before I even mix this in, I'm gonna turn my cooktop on, just have it on low to start heating up. Okay, now pour the wet into the dry and mix until just combined. If you overmix, you're gonna get like kind of a more bready, dense consistency, and if you activate that gluten, they can kind of like shrink back up. We want fluffy, delicious pancakes. All mixed in, no pockets of flour, and we're ready to get rolling. Let's get onto this cooktop. Just like with anything in life, a little butter goes a long way for helping things out. So you can butter your pan. This is actually a really nice non-stick pan. I searched high and low and eventually found one. But even still, it's best to have a little bit of lubricant on there. You can use some spray if you want to. As soon as your butter's melted, you can add in about 1/3 of a cup. I'm making some smaller ones for the kids and then some big ones for the adults. If you made pancakes before, you know that the first one is not the prettiest, but it's still gonna be tasty. I'm still figuring out this cooktop, so bear with me. Normally you can tell a pancake is done because bubbles start forming on the top, but this mixture is so bubbly because of the buttermilk and the leavening agent that you're not gonna get that indication. There you go. Not bad. Look at that fluffiness. Love it. You can always lift up the corner to take a look. And you can see, it's pretty good. This is what happens with less butter. That's more butter.
Thank you.
If you're someone who likes to
so
toss things in the pan like a big shot, don't do it for this recipe. They're so big and fluffy that they'll slide and you're gonna like flatten them out. So carefully flip them over. Don't get too much inertia involved there. Back to a nice warm position. You don't want to burn your pancakes. Right, a little drop of butter. You know, any cook will tell you the secret to a delicious meal is a drop of butter. And if my mom is telling you that, she's literally dropped a big thing of butter in there. All right, one more. You don't want to walk away from these just like oatmeal. No, wait, just like whipped cream. Nothing happens, it's overdone. So just be careful, don't let it get too far. That's almost there. You're almost there. Don't know if you can hear, but the kids are actually starting their breakfast. This will be like the dessert part of breakfast.
Thank you.
They're having oatmeal now. The secret is to give kids a little bit of something good and a little bit of something indulgent. Don't give the indulgent part first. Made that mistake. Okay, perfect. Look at that fluffy pancake mixture. That is the secret to a fluffy pancake.
Nice of you.
Getting the right amount of acid reacting with the leavening agent, and fluffiness ensues. Also not overmixing it, very important. Time to start making some big pancakes for the adults. So we can go up to like half a cup of batter, basically. If you're making a bigger pancake, lower the heat just a little bit. You don't want to like burn the outside and have the inside be a bit undercooked. You could also give it a little bit of a shake and shimmy to spread it out if you need to. You know I love a good cup of coffee, but a fluffy pancake with real maple syrup and a little pat of butter on top is my morning pick-me-up. Whenever I like having a bad morning, which happens, so I just make some pancakes and everything starts off right. If there are any other recipes you want to see for breakfast stuff, let me know. Waffles maybe? I am so excited for waffles. Do you see how fluffy that is? That is a fluffy pancake. Hello. I can't decide which I like better, the smell of coffee or maple syrup in the morning. Do I have to choose? Give it a nice pour. That's nice. These pancakes are actually perfectly sweet with a good hit of salt, so you don't need to gild the lily, but we're gilding the lily and adding on that maple syrup. Before I take a bite, if you like this recipe, check out my quick and easy playlist. So many recipes, so easy, so quick, and delicious. Okay, look how fluffy that piece is. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a happy camper. And yes, I will be sharing, I only had a little piece of the top one. The kids won't know the difference. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.